Good day everyone, welcome back to Disciplines and Ideas in Social Science. So again, I am Ma'am Cheryl Ivania. So we will now discuss another topic under week 4. So these are the objectives under the most essential learning competency. Analyze the basic concepts and principles of the major social science ideas such as psychoanalysis, rational choice, institutionalism, feminist theory, hermeneutical phenomenology, and human environment systems. So the first one is about psychoanalytic theory. Psychoanalysis or the psychoanalytic theory have the origin in the work and theories of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis. His creation of psychoanalysis was at once a theory of the human psyche, a therapy for the relief of its ills, and an optic for the interpretation of culture and society. The core idea of this theory is the belief that all people possess unconscious thoughts, feelings, desires, and memories. By bringing the content of the unconscious into conscious awareness, people are then able to experience catharsis and gain insight into their current state of mind. We have basic tenets of psychoanalysis according to Sigmund Freud. So the first one is the way that people behave is largely influenced by their unconscious drives. The development of personality is mostly influenced by the events of early childhood. So these childhood experiences has big impact or great impact in our development or the development of our personality. Bringing information from the unconscious in the consciousness can lead to catharsis and allow people to deal with the issue. People utilize a number of defense mechanisms to protect themselves from information contained in the unconscious. Emotional and psychological problems are often rooted in conflicts between the conscious and unconscious mind. And lastly, a skilled analyst can help bring certain aspects of the unconscious into awareness by using variety of psychoanalytic strategies such as dream analysis and free association. So here is Freud's structure of human mind. So as we can see here, so we can see the three different parts or structure of human mind. So the first one is the id. The id, it is an inherited components of our personality, which is present at birth. It is the only component of personality that is present. So this component is the source of our psychic energy. So it is the primary component of our personality. So it includes our instinct or sex instinct and the aggressive instinct. So it is about the instant gratification of our basic physical needs and urge or our physiological needs. It is driven by our pleasure principle, so which is we strive for immediate gratification of our desires, our wants, and our needs. A as we can see from the image, it operates within the unconscious part of our mind. Okay, so nasa bottom siya, which is the unconscious part. So we have three parts. We have the unconscious level, the preconscious, and the conscious. The id is not affected by reality, logic, or the everyday world, since it is operates within the unconscious part of our mind. So sa id, we don't see the reality, so what is happening in the real world. The id is very important in early life because it ensures that an infant's needs are met. So for example, yung infant na nagugutom, so you have to feed that infant immediately in order to gratify his needs, in order to satisfy his cravings. Okay. So, ano yung mga under ng id? So, we have those feelings such as fears, our violent motives, those unacceptable sexual desires, the irrational wishes, the important urge, and the shameful experiences, as well as our selfish needs. What are some examples of id? So meron po tayo ng since id it operates within the unconscious part of the mind, so it's about gratification of our physical needs and urge. So it means that it is more on meeting our basic needs. So these are some of the examples. For example, a crying baby. So after giving the food or the milk, instantly the baby stop crying. So that is an example. Another example, for example, gutom na gutom ka na, so may nakita kang pagkain sa table, immediately kinain mo yung pagkain sa table without even asking kung kanino yon, or kung yung pagkain na yun ay pwede pa bang kainin, just to gratify your needs, which is yung nagugutom ka na. So another example, yung sa traffic, for example, heavy traffic, may mga ibang mga motorista na wala silang pakialam na against na o bina-violate na nila yung traffic rules. So nag overtake sila, so nang-aagaw sila ng linya para lang malampasan yung traffic. So that are some examples of actions or behavior under id. The second part is the super ego, which is under the unconscious and the preconscious, but mostly it is preconscious. So the super ego is concerned with social rules and morals, like what many people call their conscience or their moral compass. It operates mostly at the preconscious level. So it includes our memories, stored knowledge, striving for perfection. Super ego usually develops during early childhood, when we identify the difference between the same sex or the difference between gender. And the superego is responsible for ensuring moral standards to be followed. So since superego operates on the morality principle and it will motivate us to behave in a socially responsible and acceptable manner by following the social rules and morals. Okay, so for example, so you are guilty by not following the school rules. Okay, so the traffic, you will, yung kanina example natin, no, dahil meron kang conscience, hindi ka mag-overtake doon sa nasa unahan sa'yo para lang makalampas doon sa traffic. So, since super ego is based on morals and judgment about what is right and what is wrong. So, our reason under super ego for making decision is based on moral values. While, so for example, alimbawa, yung isang may asawa, for example, nasa isang business trip siya, may opportunity siya to be unfaithful sa kanyang partner or sa kanyang wife or husband. So, by understanding or knowing what damage could be done after this infidelity, such behavior will affect his family. So, that person will decide not to do that, or he will decide to avoid the temptation. Okay. So, that are some example under super ego. So, under morals and judgment. So, the third one is the ego. So, it is responsible for dealing with reality. It mediates between the unrealistic id, which is under unconscious, and the external real world, or the super ego. The ego functions in the both in conscious, preconscious, and unconscious mind. So, as you can see from the image, no, na touch niya yung tatlong part, the unconscious, preconscious, and the conscious part ng ating mind. So, since it is responsible for dealing with reality, it will mediate between the unrealistic and the external world. So, it will satisfy the id's demand, and often it will delay the gratification of needs. So, the ego functions, or the main goal or objective of ego is to satisfy the demands of the id in a safe, to satisfy the needs but in a safe and socially acceptable way. So, binabalance niya yung unconscious id and then the preconscious super ego. So, isa-satisfy mo yung needs mo, yung wants mo, but by obeying obeying the rules, or by complying to what is morally, or what is wrong, what is right rather. So, in contrast to id, so the ego follows the reality principle, kasi yung id is under hindi siya affected by reality. The ego follows the reality principle. So, since it operates in both the conscious and unconscious mind, so it will consider the costs and benefits of an action. So, before he decides, so ibig sabihin dito sa ego, naging rational yung tao, he will consider the benefits or the consequences of his decisions or his actions. So, before deciding. So, if the ego fails in attempt to use the reality principle, the individual may experience anxiety, and unconscious defense mechanism are employed. So, kapag hindi nababalanse, hindi na kayang balansehin ni ego, yung super ego and id, dito na tayo na nakaka-experience ng tinatawag na anxiety. Okay, so, para magawa natin to, para hindi tayo mahulog doon sa depression at mawala tayo doon sa malubog tayo dito sa unconscious state. Kailangan makita pa rin natin yung conscious level or yung what is the reality or what is the real world. Kailangan natin ng mga pamamaraan para maiwasan yung nalubog tayo sa unconsciousness. So, sa pamamagitan ng mga tinatawag nating defense mechanism na to. So, we have different defense mechanism as according to Sigmund Freud to prevent from becoming overwhelmed by the anxiety that we are experiencing. So, ano-ano po itong mga defense mechanism na pwede natin gamitin para ma-manage natin yung anxiety natin. So, we have here repression, denial, projection, displacement, regression, and sublimation. So, repression is an unconscious mechanism employed by the ego to keep disturbing or threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. For example, so during the Oedipus complex, aggressive thoughts about the same-sex parents are repressed. So, we are using the threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. In second defense mechanism, we have denial. So, sa denial naman, it involves blocking external events from awareness. So, if some situation is just too much to handle, the person just refuses to experience it. Kaya nga denial, parang hindi niya masyadong iniintindi. Okay, so for example, smokers may refuse to admit to themselves that smoking is bad for their health. So, yung example. The third defense mechanism is the projection. Projection involves individuals attributing their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and motives to another person. Example, you might hate someone, but your superego tells you that such hatred is unacceptable. You can solve the problem by believing that they hate you. So, yun yung ginagawa ng projection. Okay? The fourth one is displacement. Displacement is satisfying an impulse with a substitute object. Example, someone who is frustrated by his or her boss at work may go home and kick the dog. So, sa displacement, binabaling natin sa iba yung ating impulse o yung ating nararamdaman. For example, mga sinusuntok natin yung pader o kaya naman pwede namang hinahag natin yung unan kapag tayo ay emotionally unstable. The next is regression. This is a movement back in psychological time when one is faced with stress. Example, a child may begin to suck her thumb or their thumb again or wet the bed when they need to spend some time in the hospital. Okay? So, pwede yung mga ganun para ma-relax ka. So, meron tayong mga ginagawa sa ating sarili na nakakapagpa-relax. Halimbawa, yung pagtatap ng ating kamay, so pwede yung paraan ng regression. The last one is sublimation, satisfying an impulse with a substitute object in a socially acceptable way. Example nito ay yung mga hobbies natin, yung such as sports, yung ating mga talent, so doon natin ibinabali yung ating sarili para hindi na natin maisip yung mga problemang kinakaharap natin. So we can use this defense mechanism para hindi lumala yung ating nararanasang anxiety. Okay, so we are done with psychoanalysis or psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud. We will now move to another social science theory. Okay, so the next one is the rational choice theory. So what is rational choice theory? So, rational choice theory is elaborated by Adam Smith. He is one of the first economists to develop the underlying principles behind the rational choice theory. Through his study, or in his book entitled An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of the Nations, which was published in 1776. So what is the basic premise of the rational choice theory? The basic premise of the rational choice theory is that aggregate social behavior results from the behavior of individual actors, each of whom is making their individual decisions. So, ibig sabihin, yung bawat decision na ginagawa ng individual will have an impact to the society. So, our decision as an individual is based on our conduct on the logical process. Rational decision making entails choosing among all available alternatives the alternative that the individual most prepare. So, individual has preferences in choosing the best among the given options or the alternatives. So, the actions or the outcomes can be evaluated in terms of the cost and benefits. So, a rational individual chooses the action, okay, action that provides the maximum net benefit. So, a rational choice theory is weighing. A person who is rational is acting if they are weighing the cost and benefits of possible actions so that they can maximize their gain. So, kapag nag-decide ang isang rational na tao, so inaalam niya muna ano yung mga posibleng the negative and positive impact or impacts ng kanyang decision, both side. So isa-isa niya, nililist down niya yon. So, alin doon, mula doon, ay pipiliin niya, alin doon yung mas magbe-benefit siya. And, mas mababa yung magagamit niyang resources. So, weighing the rewards and punishment of every interactions. So, by this interaction, so, kapag ang isang interaction ay if the interaction results in approval, syempre ang gagawin natin, we will repeat that interaction or behavior because of the social approval through reward. So, kabaliktaran naman ito, kapag ang resulta ng ating behavior or ating reaction or interaction is punishment, so most likely we will not repeat that action or decision because of the social disapproval. So, obviously, you will do something, we all do something to get a reward. So, we will avoid something that will lead us in punishment. So, that is rational choice theory. The next is institutionalism. So, institutionalism is another social science approach. So, what is institutionalism? So, it views society is made up of individuals who are influenced by institutions, which are also humanly created constraints that shape political, economic, and social interactions. According to Britannica.com, institutionalism is an approach that emphasizes the role of institutions. Okay, so institutions are the formal and informal rules and norms that organize our social, political, and economic relations. So we have different features of institutions. So they are brought to light by people and organizations. they provide uh, relatively predictable structure for every everyday social, economic, and political life. So, institutions lead to enduring patterns of behavior over time, but this behavior will change over time. So, because people will ask for change or reform through people's action. Institutions produce positive or negative development outcomes. So, it will depend on the kind of relations or behaviors that institutions enables. So, the outcomes for the enjoyment of rights and allocation of resources in society. Institutions, when classified according to the degree of formality, they may be divided into formal and informal institutions. Formal institutions are usually they are officially established and enforced by government, by school. Okay. According to Geoffrey Hudson, formal and informal institution not only constrain but also enable human behavior through the implementation of different policies. So if formal institution is officially established and enforced, informal institution is those are rules, policies, or behavior governing behavior outside the official channels. So outside, what are these channels? So those channels includes government, we have the educational institution, the church. Okay. Formal institutions, usually they are written constitutions, policies, regulations, guidelines, or codes, or standards, the rights and regulation enforced by official authorities. While informal institutions, usually these are unwritten social norms, customs, traditions, beliefs, values, historical experiences, practices, or thoughts and behavior. So these are the distinction between the formal and informal institutions. So we have another social science theory, which is the feminist theory. So feminist theory aims to eliminate gender inequality by analyzing the status of men and women in society. It argues that women should enjoy the same rights as men. So it aims to understand the nature of gender inequality. It will examine women's and men's social roles. So experiences, interest, okay, in a variety of fields. Gender equality as the mantra of feminism or the feminist theory. So they believe if you are a feminist, you believe that it is necessary to achieve fundamental human rights to achieve peace in all aspects of life. According to Philippine Commission on Women, uh, the Philippines remains the top country in Asia in terms of closing the gender gap. So that is according to Global Gender Gap Report 2020 of the World Economic Forum. So mataas na yung level natin when it comes to gender equality. So the report shows that the Philippines has closed 78% of its overall gender gap, garnering a score of 0.781, down by 1.8 percentage points from 0.799 in 2019. With this, Philippines ranked 16th out of 153 countries with the narrowest gap between men and women, dropping by 8 notches from its place last year. So notably, it remains as the sole Asian country that made it to the top 20 tier, followed by Lao PDR, which ranked 43rd. So it is good that we have this rank. So number 1 in Asia, 16 in the world, in closing the gender gap. The next social science theory is the hermeneutic phenomenology. So what is hermeneutic phenomenology? So we have two words here, the hermeneutics, which is about the art of understanding and theory of interpretation, while phenomenology is the study of experience and how we experience. So mainly it concerned with human experience as it is lived. So based on the context. Okay, so we will study the certain phenomena as it is lived by a certain person or group of people based on his experience or context. It is an historical phenomena which is interpreted differently in proper context through one's consciousness. So mainly, this theory or this approach focuses on the relationship between the person and the event, and how meaning is formed in that relationship between the person and the event or the phenomenon. It focuses on the subjective experience of individuals and groups. So, according to the experience by the subject or the people you are studying through their life. The next one is the human environment systems. So what is human environment systems? So human environment system promotes sustainability by understanding how human and environmental systems interact. As a social science approach, it will lead us to analyze our role in environmental sustainability by being sensitive with to our actions with nature. So how are we going to interact with nature? So it is an academic which is focused towards mitigating the impact and the pressure on humans by exploring several activities that might help in any abuse in the physical environment. Because human activities create an impact on the natural environments. So such effect creates pressure on the social, economic, and political environment of human. So and vice versa. So let us now move to the post-test. So just choose among the options. Okay, so number 1, it focuses on empowering women and addressing inequality between men and women. A. Feminist theory. B. Hermeneutic phenomenology. C. Psychoanalysis. D. Rational choice theory. Okay, very good. So it is letter A. Number 2. It aims at helping clients to bring about a major change in their whole perspective in life. A. Feminist theory. B. Hermeneutic Phenomenology. C. Psychoanalytic theory or psychoanalysis. D. Rational choice theory. Okay, very good. So it is letter C. Number 3. Its focus is studying how societies are being organized and managed. A. Human environment systems. B. Institutionalism. C. Psychoanalytic theory. And letter D. Rational choice theory. A. Yes, it is letter B. Number 4. It is used in framing individual behavior to easily predict individual preferences and choices. A. Hermeneutic Phenomenology. B. Institutionalism. C. Psychoanalytic theory. And letter D. Rational choice theory. Okay, so this is letter D. And last, we have number 5. It highlights human experience and consciousness in the study of society and social phenomena. A. Hermeneutic Phenomenology. B. Institutionalism. C. Psychoanalytic theory. And letter D. Rational choice theory. Okay, so this is hermeneutic phenomenology. Okay, so I hope you learned something from this presentation. Thank you very much. Good day.